This paper, The Spectacle of Excess Representations of the 2008 Financial Crisis in Mainstream American Cinema, presents an analysis of a selection of documentary and fiction films with storylines related to the economic and financial crisis of 2008. The sample contains 11 films released between 2009 and 2013 that have had major international distribution and a significant impact on audiences. These 5 documentaries and 6 fiction films examine the origins and consequences of the economic and financial crisis of 2008, the effects of which have been worldwide and are still being felt today. The purpose of the analysis of these films is to determine whether they promote a critical view of the events of the subprime mortgage crisis, or conversely, whether they are in fact cinematic productions that should be classified in the context of hegemonic or mainstream cinema, constituting products for entertainment and consumption largely indistinct from ordinary commercial films. The analysis of the films selected is contextualized in terms of William Mitchell's picture theory, together with the work of other scholars. Mitchell, an art historian and language scholar, suggests that contemporary society is dominated by the image to such an extent that there has been what he calls a pictorial turn, a shift towards the visual in which the image has become hegemonic. In short, we are living in a society of the spectacle, as the situationist philosopher Guy Debord would call it. The study considers the conditions of production and reception, of expressive and narrative resources, as well as the narrative construction and the strategies of discursive enunciation in the films selected, following the scholarly tradition of researchers like Zunzunegui, Carmona, and González Requena. First of all, the analysis of the films studied confirms that the barrier between documentary films and fiction films is somewhat blurred, as the documentary films studied make use of strategies characteristic of fiction, while the fiction films analyzed exhibit clear documentary features. Secondly, the films analyzed easily engage the audience through the use of the expressive and narrative resources of mainstream or hegemonic cinema, whose rhetoric is based on the intelligibility of the stories told and the principle of enunciative transparency. In this sense, despite being films that take a critical view of the causes and effects of the financial crisis of 2008, our textual analysis of the films selected confirms that, in general, the more spectacular dimension of the mise-en-scène takes precedence, privileging aspects such as the visual impact of the image, the audiovisual power of the editing, the repeated use of acceleration of the pace of narrative, emotional identification with the spectator, and even knowing winks to the audience that play with breaks in the enunciative transparency. In short, despite any appearances to the contrary, these are films inscribed in the logic of consumerism and the society of the spectacle in which we live. Rather than offering an in-depth critique of the existing economic, political, social, or cultural system, in general these films appear to legitimize the hegemonic neoliberal economic model, with an emphasis on the more sensational and emotional dimension of image reception and consumption through the spectacle of excess which the economic crisis represents. In this respect, we agree with Umberto Eco's call for a need to transform the language of the image into a stimulus for critical reflection, not an invitation to hypnosis. This research has been conducted in the context of the research project Crisis of the Real, Documentary and News Representation in the Context of the Global Financial Crisis, funded by Universitat Jaume I de Castellón's Research Promotion Plan for the period 2015-2017. This research project was directed by Javier Marsal Felici, director of the Itaca UGI Research Group. The activities of the group are detailed on the website culturavisual.ugi.es.